From the outside, Akosua Dankwa lived a life sculpted from dreams, resplendent in her cantonment's mansion, draped in kente and Dior, the beloved wife of Kwabena Owusu-Baa, Accra's most powerful logistics mogul. Every charity gala, every headline praised their elegance, their unity. But Akosua felt the distance grow like a cold draught in her silk-lined home. Late-night business calls, cancelled trips, the way he no longer touched her hand during Sunday brunch. One Harmattan evening, she stepped into Kwabena's private study, searching for her missing tablet. Instead, she found a second phone hidden behind a stack of company files. It wasn't just a backup. It was encrypted, loaded with messages, blurred photos of a woman and a child, and transaction logs to a hidden account. Her throat tightened. Who were they? She sat frozen on the velvet stool, her eyes scanning messages that shattered her world. A name repeated often. Ezi. A child's face, bright, wide-eyed, and painfully familiar. A boy barely 6, with Kwabena's unmistakable smile. Her fingers trembled as she swiped through photos she was never meant to see. That night, while Kwabena slept beside her, Akosua stared at the ceiling fan spinning slowly above her. Was her marriage real, or had she been a well-dressed prop in a legacy game? She knew then. Something was broken, and it began with a boy she'd never met, yet who looked just like her husband. Kwabena Owusu-Baa built his empire with precision. Every handshake calculated, every headline curated. In his world, power wasn't inherited. It was orchestrated. His companies ran like a freight train across West Africa. To the press, he was a patriotic mogul. To the powerful, a necessary devil. To Akosua, he was the charming husband who kissed her forehead and said, "I'll be home late." But Kwabena had learned long ago that love was a luxury he couldn't afford, not when legacy was on the line. He married Akosua for her class, her network, her calm elegance. But after her miscarriage, hope for a bloodline flickered. His mother, Nana Efua, reminded him of the ancestral truth. Only a male heir born of his blood could inherit the Owusu-Baa fortune. That's when Ezi reappeared, a woman from his past, now a teacher in Dansoman, carrying more than memories. She had a son, Kojo. Kwabena paid the bills, secured the house, arranged silence. Not out of love, but duty. Akosua could never know. She wouldn't understand. She believed in loyalty, in fairy tales. He believed in succession. He believed in control. When Akosua confronted him with the phone, he didn't panic. He turned cold. "You were never supposed to know," he said, voice like granite. He watched the pain etch across her face, but made no move to console her. Feelings were a distraction. Exposure was a threat. And now Akosua had become both. She would either return to silence or become his greatest mistake. Ezi Nyamekia rose before dawn in her small 2-bedroom flat in Dansoman. Kojo, her son, still slept, curled beneath a tattered Avenger's bedsheet, his breath soft, his dreams unbothered. She boiled water on a coal pot and prepared his breakfast cocoa and couscous. Her life was simple, dignified, but behind the quiet, she carried a heavy secret. 6 years ago, Kwabena Owusu-Baa returned to her life like a storm. They had once loved in the shadows, before his rise, before her heartbreak. When he found her again, she had just buried her mother and discovered she was pregnant. Kwabena didn't ask for the child, but once he saw Kojo, he didn't walk away either. Instead, he made promises. A new house, monthly support. Silence. Ezi never told Kojo who his father was. "Your papa is far away," she'd say, brushing his hair, But you have me. You are loved. Kojo never asked much. He loved school, his sketchbook, and the red toy truck Kwabena had sent on his birthday. But recently things changed. A man in a suit had come asking questions. A woman's voice had called Essie's phone, then hung up. The payments arrived late, and at church a woman stared at her too long, her eyes full of questions. Essie knew the illusion was cracking. She'd kept her end of the deal. She stayed quiet. She protected the legacy. But how long before Kojo asked the question she couldn't answer? How long before Akosua came knocking? As she watched her son eat with his usual smile, she whispered a quiet prayer. Nyame, protect him from the sins of his father. The scent of shea butter and lavender hung in the ancestral living room of the Owusu estate in Kumasi. Nana Nefua sat upright on her woven throne-like chair, her white lace wrapper crisp, her head tie immaculate. At 74, she had seen empires rise and suns fall, but her greatest pride remained her lineage, unbroken, male-led, and bound by custom. When Akosua arrived unannounced, grief behind her eyes and fire in her voice, Nana Efua listened in silence. The name Kojo dropped like a stone in still water, and when the word Essie was whispered, her fingers tightened on the cane resting beside her. I have no quarrel with truth, Akosua said, but I deserve to know what role I was chosen to play. Nana Efua exhaled, slow and heavy. There's an oath in our family, she began, voice low. The Owusu name, the full estate, cannot pass unless there is a male heir of blood. Not adoption, not proxy. Blood. She turned to face Akosua fully. When your womb failed to hold after the miscarriage, my son came to me, torn but bound by duty. I did not force his hand. I reminded him of the legacy. He made his choice. Akosua's jaw clenched. So I was... What, a cover story? A vessel of grace, Nana Efua replied. You brought light to this family. But legacy, Akosua. Legacy is war, and war demands sacrifice. For a moment, silence reigned. Then Akosua stood, taller than she had ever felt. I am not your casualty, she said, and I will not die quietly in your legacy's shadow. As she left, Nana Efua's eyes followed her, not with anger, but with something older. Fear. For the first time, the matriarch wondered what might happen if the sacrificed one decided to strike back. Kwaku Mensah knew the cost of silence. As co-founder of Owusu Global Tech, he'd helped Kwabena turn a shipping outfit into a continental powerhouse. But over time, the handshakes grew dirtier. Contracts secured with bribes, competitors disappeared, off-the-books accounts in Seychelles. Kwaku said nothing. Loyalty, after all, was its own kind of currency. But Akosua was different. He had watched her for years from the margins, graceful, intelligent, radiant even when sidelined. He saw the way she smiled at events, her laughter muted, her eyes never truly joyful. And now she stood in his office, shattered but unbroken, demanding truth. They're watching me, she whispered. Kwabena won't confess, but I need proof, the kind that burns. Kwaku hesitated. Helping you could burn me too. Then we burn together, she replied. Something in him cracked. Perhaps it was guilt. Perhaps it was love. He opened the digital vault, password-protected folders hidden behind dummy files, shell companies, illegal transactions, ties to a trafficking ring masked under import, export. But that wasn't all. There was a property, offshore, registered in a shell name, Elmina Island, a retreat where Kwabena stored both physical documents and digital backups far from Ghanaian jurisdiction. You need to go there, Kwaku said, voice tight. What you'll find may destroy him. Akosua's eyes didn't flinch. That's the idea. As she turned to leave, Kwaku stopped her. If anything happens to you, I'll finish what you started. She paused, looked back, and said softly, Then pray I make it back. At the Ghana Herald office in Ridge, Adjoa Asare sifted through corruption stories like sand. Most ended in silence or sudden promotions. But when Akosua Dankwa walked in, wrapped in bold kente, with a flash drive in her clutch and fire in her eyes, Adjoa sat up straighter. This is not just a scandal, Akosua said. It's a system, and I'm done protecting it. The files were damning. Videos of Kwabena threatening competitors, shell accounts traced to government contracts, confidential memos detailing human cargo hidden in containers marked as electronics. Adjoa's jaw tightened. It wasn't just greed. It was evil, draped in luxury. You know publishing this will put you in every predator's crosshairs. Akosua nodded. I've already buried fear. Adjoa moved swiftly. She encrypted the files, traced the links, lined up testimonies from ex-employees and contractors. Her team began prepping a multimedia exposé, timed leaks, timed headlines. But most of all, they needed a trigger. Go to Elmina, get the originals. We'll hold the story until you return. If you don't, it goes live. When Akosua left, Adjoa sat alone for a while, listening to the hum of the city through her window. Accra was full of women like Akosua, decorated, muted, dismissed. But not anymore. She pulled out her notebook and wrote the headline she would use if Akosua didn't return. Beneath the gold, the billionaire, the betrayal, and the woman who wouldn't stay silent. And underlined it twice. Kojo liked to draw. While other boys in Dansuman kicked plastic footballs down dusty lanes, he sketched houses, animals, and the sky. Always the sky. His favorite was a drawing of a big house with a mango tree in front, and a man in a suit standing beside a woman in a bright dress. He'd titled it, My Family, though no one ever asked who the man was. Sometimes he'd catch his mother, Essie, staring at him too long, like she was searching for someone in his face. Mummy, he asked one morning, do I have a daddy? Essie knelt beside him. You have someone who helped make you. But he lives far away. Kojo nodded, not fully understanding. He didn't tell her about the man who sometimes waited in a black car across the road, or the time he heard her crying on the veranda late at night. He didn't know what fear was. Not yet. But he could feel it living in their house, like a quiet guest. One day, while packing his crayons, he found a photo half tucked into a drawer, a man in a navy agbada, smiling beside a woman in a golden gown. He turned it over. No names, no date. But he recognized the smile. It was his. Maybe that's me when I grow up, he whispered. Kojo didn't know he was the reason behind whispered arguments in boardrooms, late-night flights, and silenced headlines. He didn't know his name was written in hidden wills and forged certificates. All he knew was that one day he'd ask his mother the full truth, and he hoped deep down that whoever that man was would be brave enough to say, I'm your father. For now, he just drew, and in every picture the boy was never alone. The waves near Elmina lapped gently, masking the storm Akosua carried in her chest. The island villa was modest, but inside its locked cabinet were weapons more powerful than any bullet, hard drives, contracts, audio files, and a marriage certificate, dated before her own wedding, between Kwabena and Essie. She fell to her knees, wind choking her breath. She had not been betrayed. She had been orchestrated. When she returned to Accra, she didn't flinch. She walked into Kwabena's airport residential office dressed in white, a mourning color, but not for herself, for the man he used to be, and the empire he was about to lose. She dropped the flash drive on his mahogany desk. "You have two choices," she said. "A quiet divorce with a generous settlement, or I destroy everything." Kwabena laughed, cold, arrogant. "You're just a woman. No heir, no power, no name without mine." Akosua met his gaze. "Then let's see who the world believes." By nightfall, the Ghana Herald had published the first wave. Social media erupted. Board members resigned. Sponsors vanished. And the mighty Kwabena Owusu Baa was summoned by police for questioning. His empire crumbled. His voice, once feared, was now a whisper in a prison cell. He sent her one final message: "You'll regret this." But Akosua didn't, not even when fear clung to her skin like mist. A year later, she stood on a podium in Osu, accepting a national award for her Golden Truth Foundation, which had already helped hundreds of women escape silence. She wore a bold kente dress stitched with Adinkra symbols of strength. She no longer needed his name. She had her own. Akosua Dankwa, the woman who rose from betrayal and lit a fire no one could put out.